What's going on, Dragon Ballers? We're back with another player interview with Alex again, a little double feature here. So he topped singles and teams. This time we have his Vegeta Baby deck from teams, right?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. So yeah, how'd you guys do in teams, and why'd you decide to play this deck?
So we ended up finishing X1 in teams. We ended up in, I believe, third place at the end of Swiss. We played top 4, or we played top 8, won our top 8 round, and unfortunately lost in top 4. I noticed that the teams is almost every team had the exact same lineup of leaders. Like it was insane. Team had a yellow Broly leader that was abusing Shigesh, whether it was lineage or veggies or apes, whatever kind it was yellow Broly. And then there was what I call a flex deck, which was normally Vegeta Baby or Pan. I call it a flex deck because it's flexible. It can play against a lot of different stuff and be okay. So that's why we chose Vegeta Baby to be the flex. I mean, our team was Yellow Broly, Janemba, and Vegeta Baby. So, like, obviously,
pretty solid lineup, if I do say so.
Yeah, I mean, it's if your opponent doesn't have the Cronoa, then the Shigesh just wins you the Yellow Broly matchup for free. The deck's for free because it's degenerate, and this deck, like I said, it can play against so many different things and do well. Or I chose to play this list. And I love the deck. I'm a red guy till death.
Yeah, I remember you said in the Broly deck profile that you've played this deck for a long time, and so you feel like this list is really really kind of sorted well for a Vegeta Baby deck.
I do. So I played a lot of Vegeta Baby mirrors this weekend, and the one I talked to every single one of them afterward, and I might have been the only one at the whole event not playing the full chain, the 5 and the 6 drop monkeys, like the monkey chain.
Right.
It is bad. I played it in Atlanta. I didn't like it. It felt like I was playing a subpar cell chain where you're drawing all of your big pieces early and they're just terrible. So I cut that chain completely out and made it a lot more of like a toolbox kind of deck where it just makes things awkward for your opponent.
Fair enough.
Everything you do, I have some kind of answer for it that just makes things awkward for you to play against.
I like it, yeah. We'll get into the deck profile. So, Overwhelm slot 3. So I like the Scientist Fu and I like the Dimensional Banisher. How important was the Time Patrol Trunks?
So I call Time Patrol the hope this gets my Zeno card. When you're really digging for like one of like an important piece, whether it's chain attack or Zeno or foreseeing hit, it's just a good card that lets you get to, and it's 15k pressure you can put on your opponent.
Mm-hmm. So
it should have been the Kai that looks at 3 and gets a battle card.
That was about to be my next question. Yeah,
been better, but I just played the Time Patrol. I can't give you a reason why I played that over the other one. I just put the Time Patrol in.
No, fair enough. That was gonna be my next question, but I'm glad you addressed it. 1 Dimensional Banisher, 1 Scientist, 3 Zeno. So this is really interesting. I'm not a fan of Zeno in the main deck for Baby Vegeta, but that's because I do play the Ape combo typically. But a lot of decks that topped Atlanta did main deck the Zeno. So do you feel like it really just sets apart like a good Vegeta Baby deck from a bad Vegeta Baby deck?
So like I said, I mained both the Monkey Chain and Zeno in Atlanta when I topped that. Told everyone afterward, I won 99% of my games off of Chain Zeno. Like, that play is still so strong. It lets you keep the game fair against unfair decks. I think Zeno is for sure the way to play this deck, and separates the good players from the bad players, because you can just get cheesed by Zeno sometimes. Sometimes you draw broken. Sometimes your opponent draws broken and you just lose.
Right.
But I don't want to say it separates the good players, but I don't want to say the smarter players, but kind of the smarter players apart. Like, you're going into the event knowing that you have an insta out to any situation versus having a monkey that doesn't even have barrier and can just get popped.
Yeah, no, that's super powerful. I definitely can't argue with you there. 2 Sankaba. I think this card's so good. I know a lot of baby decks don't play it, but I do play it personally. So why do you play this card? Because I have my reasons. It's for like Shenron decks and an alternative win con. Why do you think Sankaba is good in the deck?
Both of those reasons you just said. It's great as just a 1-drop pressure your opponent for a 15k double strike. It's great to draw off of Zeno, because your opponent has to start using cards. They can't just eat 15k double strike after they're at 4 or less life. They'll just die.
Right.
Using cards to defend against that, and I mean play Kaba, swing, take a life. They use a card or two to defend it. It's like, cool. Now I'm at 7 cards and you're at 3, and for no reason basically. And I wanted this deck to have a lot of basically 1-drop lethal capabilities.
Yep.
So that's why you see Banisherfu, Saifu, Kaba, the 1-drop baby combos, all those. Everything you can drop for one mana and put double strike pressure on your opponent. So it just makes them use more cards and make bad decisions, basically.
Awesome. Then we have the typical baby, the 1-drop baby, the 4 death ball, 4 after image, super combos, fearless pan. This is definitely not typical in a lot of baby lists, but I do understand why it's in this list because you, like you said, you play more of a toolboxy build, so I like that a lot. Double digging deep, the 2 glory obsessed, 2 Ginyu. Berry Blue is a very interesting card in this deck, in my opinion. I don't really know how I feel about the quick shifts yet. I think that they're okay in certain decks. I know it's like, it's a -1, which is why I don't love it. But why do you like this card?
So Berry Blue, I was kind of in that same boat. I didn't really know how I felt about it. I was not going to play it. Then one of my teammates, Matt Cashman, he told me, he's like, dude, you should play this. He said the only reason that you ever lose is because you draw a bunch of Zenos and you can't combo. And you just die because your hand's nothing but Zenos. He's like, so if you get a Berry Blue, you can shuffle your Zenos back and draw into death balls, draw into super combos, things like that. You know what? That makes sense. I'll test it out. And that card was amazing all weekend. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. Just being able to shuffle back. If you have multiple overwhelms, being able to put them back, being able to put when you're at low life, putting your Zenos back in your deck and just getting 2 new cards it was fantastic. I loved it.
Fair enough. And another question. A card that I've been looking at that's similar to this card is the 1-drop red Bulma from set 6. You know the one I'm talking about?
I don't think I do.
So it's a 1-drop red Bulma. I forget the name of it. Oh, it's Bulma from the sidelines, I think. It's like if you control a sand card and you play it, discard 2, draw 2. So it's different because you play it. It's not when you combo with it. But what do you think about that card in this deck? Because you do play a lot of sands and it is a red card and it does cycle through your hand just like that card does.
Yeah, that could be an honest thing. I honestly didn't know that card existed. I probably just skimmed over. I saw Bulma and I was like, oh, I don't want to play that, and just skimmed over it. But no, that sounds like it could be a real possibility. Fair enough.
I was kind of banking on you knowing that card, but it's all good. So yeah, 4-chain attack. And what I wanted to say too is that I really appreciate how you and your teammates like go through things logically. There's a lot of people in the game that have like big ego and they're like, this card's bad, this card's good, play this, that. I really appreciate how you guys went through things logically. That's really cool. 4-chain attack, 3 hit, and then the 1 Army Reborn. How did the secret rare perform for you all day?
Man, so going into Atlanta, I did not play that card. I was like, man, if I'm at 2 life, I'm dead anyway. There's no reason to play that. Atlanta, I put it in, and I have won so many games I had no business winning off of that card. Like, position, and you draw it, and you're like, hey, you play it, you look at their opponent's hand, rip their negate, and kill them. Like, that card is like, it's just cheese. It's just a cheese win for no reason. It's fantastic. In a deck like this again, I cheesed a couple games in teams off of it alone. It's absurd. 40k quadruple strike for 5 mana. Like,
yeah, that's pretty ripped. My only issue with that card is that like if your opponent has double negate, you can be in a really bad spot. But that just never happened for you.
Not really. This deck is very chain Zeno oriented. It's very, very strong against so when you chain Zeno and then like the next turn you play that down instead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, dude, you have 5 cards. You probably negated an attack last turn because you have so few cards in hand. You can't take the damage. It was really good.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually.
Because you can you blow up all their Vegetos and stuff like that. And if they are unawakened, they're 4 life, then you can kill them and they can't negate it with their leader effect.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I gotta say that's pretty good. Another thing that I wanted to ask that I am... Oh, okay, here we go. Did you ever consider playing the new Destruction Rare Vegeta since you do have Zeno in the deck to charge?
I did consider. I looked at it for a little bit, but it was one of those... It seemed like one of those plays that I call it like regional syndrome, where you look at your deck the night before and you're like, man, I need to put all these good cards in because they make so much sense in my head. And then the next day you're like, dude, what the hell was I thinking? This doesn't make sense at all. When I was looking at that, I was like, man, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to win so many games. But then I was like, that's never going to happen. Like, the times that that's going to happen, I felt like we're going to be so few that I didn't want to take the cards that were already like doing well in the deck out to put those in.
Fair enough. That makes perfect sense.
I would feel it kind of hard to like cut things out of this deck.
Yeah, no, for sure. This deck is very, very solid. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good answer cards. Like you said, it's very toolboxy. We'll go over to the side deck. So Killy Zone, red staple. You don't want your stuff getting negated. Haru, super good card. Banisher Fu, the second one, the second Scientist. And then Shrouded. Was that more just for like Janemba, or was there other matchups where that was a good card?
It was entirely for Janemba.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my teammate was playing TN, and I didn't really have a... like that is kind of my one issue with teams is the inability to use like the good for best of 3, the inability for each player to use the good side deck cards.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
In front of the yellow Broly matchup and knowing your opponent or your teammate has the Cronoa and you're like, well, they just got their free win because Shugesh is broken and I can't out it. Versus so like because your one player is playing the great card against a matchup, you kind of have to play the not so great cards against that matchup. And Fu is still a great card in that matchup, absolutely. It's nowhere near as good as like TN would have been, which I would have definitely preferred.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I do wish that teams were best of 1 just for that pretty much that reason. Once you open up the side deck, there are a lot of cards that overlap that just suck that you can't all play. But I do agree with you.
I was actually talking with Dusty beforehand, and we were talking. What we would like to see is for teams, if it was going to be best of 3, teams to have like a 30-card side deck for the team.
That sounds really cool, actually. Wow.
So that like if you sit down in front of like yellow, you can access the side deck and get the Cronoas out. Or if my teammate is, they can access the side deck and get the Cronoas out. That way you can have the answers to the decks, and it's not so rock, paper, scissors.
That's very interesting, actually. I like that idea a lot. That's really, really cool. So is that all you've got? Is a card that a lot of people expect to overperform? How did this card do for you all day?
It was pretty good. I sided in for a couple different matchups. So I didn't want to not have an actual negate in the deck, more or less. Like, because against Green Broly, like if you can negate their like leader attack with like one of their bigger guys, you can is that all you've got? Neg the big guy down, and then death ball it also is really fantastic. And you can also just prevent your opponent from going way too big, way too high. So that's what I put it in for. It was okay. I was toying between that and the red Sensu being negate.
Yep.
I can't think of what it's called, but that thing. I was toying between Is That All You've Got and Unending Awakening, and I decided to go with Is That All You've Got just because it was newer end. I don't like it because you have to discard a red card to get the double neg, and when you're playing a deck like Vegeta Baby where your hand size is never outrageous, endurance sometimes, but it was okay. It performed well when I did play it.
Gotcha. And then Burst Attack Sun Gohan. It's a card that I'm very surprised is not in your main deck, especially because you're playing Chain Zeno, which like Burst Attack in my opinion is one of the best cards to drop after Chain Zenoing someone. So why is this card in the side deck, not in the main deck, and why only 2?
So this deck has I knew Janemba was going to be the most popular deck of the weekend because it's just been destroying every event. Everyone was on it, and I'm a hard counter kind of guy. So in my mind, I was like, if everyone's playing Janemba, then everyone that is smart is going to be playing Hand Destruction against Janemba. So I wanted just to have some cards against Hand Destruction. It wasn't in the main because I knew Janemba was everyone was like, man, I don't really want to be drawing more cards. I opted not to put it in, and I just sided it in for any kind of Hand Destruction matchup. Same with the Scientist Fu. I don't think I played any, so it didn't really. I know I never sided it in, so obviously I didn't play any.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that was the mindset.
And then the third, Glory Obsessed. So this is a card that I personally just bumped to the sideboard. I don't main deck it at the moment, but you decided to include 3 in your deck. So what was this card really good against, and what did you bring in the third one for?
I brought the third one in against Yellow Broly Lineage because you can attack into the Path to Greatness and combo big and either make them waste their cards or they just let it die. Really big fan of doing that, and just any kind of problem barrier card. Same with Janemba, you can just play it, attack into the 3-drop because the Childish Heart is the best card in that deck.
Right.
Like everyone was doing this weekend with that card was absolutely insane. Just looping, the Destruction Rare Janemba 3 times in a turn and making you mill 15 cards in one turn and stuff was just absolutely insane. And so I just wanted to have some answers that I could play on turn 3 instead of 4 for Zeno.
Gotcha.
Rather than 4. And like I said, the deck was designed to make things awkward for my opponent. So it's like you can't even put out, you can't put out your 1-drop floater guys because I can just take a life and kill it. You can't put out any kind of barriers because I can Glory Obsess and just attack over it. Because I can then just go Ginyu and steal it. You can't put out a board because I'll just Zeno the board away. So like I said, I wanted to make things very, very awkward for my opponent, and Glory Obsess is one of like the super awkward cards.
Gotcha. For sure. Love the list. I think it's really powerful. I think it's a good take on Toolbox Baby Vegeta instead of like the typical ape combo we've been seeing. Any final thoughts on the deck? I know you shouted out in the last video, but again, if you want any final shout outs, feel free.
Yeah, I love this deck. Like I was telling you earlier, I played Pan almost all of last format. That's my favorite leader. Vegeta Baby, I just feel is a little bit better in the ability to utilize Revenge Death Ball, which is one of the best cards in the entire game. Also, the ability to self-awaken itself, things like that is just... so I love the deck. I love Red. I'll keep playing this deck and try and innovate some more. That's not everything was in my last video. They can go watch that if they want to hear them.
Yeah, totally. Alex, again, thank you so much for the deck profile, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
All right, thank you very much, brother.
Hey guys, now that you made it this far, listen good, listen close. In this pile of bulk behind me, I've got a Victory Strike just sitting there, unsleeved. Just minding its own business, just wants to be played, just wants to be used, just wants to, cheese people out of wins. And I swear, if you don't hit the subscribe button or check out some of our other videos right now before clicking off this video, I'm gonna rip it to shreds, I'm gonna tear it up, I'm gonna waste $500 if you guys don't hit the subscribe button or check out some of our other videos. I swear, I'll do it, I really will.